And with that, we have finished the first round of the game. And I think I'll play through another round for you to see if we can find any new buildings that we can build or tiles that we can place, and just to solidify what we've learned already. Oh, and I should mention that we need to place our player pawns out onto where the wells are located, and yeah, and so can't forget to do that. And now we're ready to go. So the red player gets to go first. What they're going to do is just take the two workers off of the lumber mill that they made earlier in the last round, gaining 2 wood for those workers that came back, and putting that overseer to sleep since they have used that action already. And continue on with the purple player's turn. They only have 7 workers that they can work with, and so things look a little tight. I think what they want to do, their main goal, if we look back at the buildings here, is how do we get closer to our end goal, and perhaps what they want to eventually build is a church, because we get a lot of coins that way, and with a lot of money we can bring back a lot of workers, as well as set ourselves up to convert that into gold to build into things like a tabernacle or a town hall, which will gain us a lot of money to move the game along. So we have plenty of horses. We need some, and we have enough ore as well to build the church. We just need some gold. And so I think what we want to do is try to build a gold miner, and so that way we can build a gold mine and eventually gain that gold that way. So what we're going to do is want to build a runners guild and gain. Uh, let's try to let's go ahead and build a runners guild on a flat land so we can take a tile and hopefully get a mountain tile to play on top of the location that we had originally placed there. And so the purple player, in order to do so, would need to actually build on a flatland, which is down here. So they would need to spend 6 workers to do so, to move their player token there. And so I don't think, since we only have 7, we would be able to do that immediately. So maybe we hold off on building the Runners Guild and only perhaps take an Explorer Guild action later for free. Since we can't build that anyway, we would be able to gain 1 gold if we did that, but and we have the tech to do so, but we also need to build that on a flatland. So that makes it a little bit more difficult to see what to do next. And that's what I felt like this game offered, was a lot of, it got pretty tight pretty quick, and knowing how to proceed and how to accomplish each intermediate goal for what buildings you want to build and what direction you want to take the game to end it soon, provided the challenge in this game. And so I'm going to have a think. I think we're going to take this into a separate direction. So for the purple player, they're going to move 2 workers to move an overseer from their home spot over 1 space. Whoops. Give them 1 space over to the lumber spot here, and they're going to take 4 workers to put out on that to gain some wood for future use. And to give you some insight on what I was thinking about the red player doing, so they have a lot of food and they have a lot of wood right now. And so with that, they have a lot of workers that they can use. And so I think they're in a pretty good position to move forward. And with all of that wood, maybe they can use that to, maybe build a harbor. Because that way they can gain 2 reserve units immediately and go from there. So let's go ahead and try to do that. They do have 2 horses and 5 wood, And so in order to build that, they would need to build that in a forest. So I technically can't go here to build a building quite yet. I would need to remove them first. And so since the purple player, which I forgot to, there you go, put an overseer there, we um, are at an impasse with the red player as well because they would need to build that lumber mill on a location without an overseer, and I think they are just too far away. I should for both players. I shouldn't have moved their wells so far away. I think they missed out an opportunity to build there. But let's see. We have 8 spots or eight, uh, 6, 8. Yeah, we would not be able to move that far, even using horses, because we would need those horses to build out that building that we were thinking about, the lumber mill. So I think what the red player is going to do is build a garden. And so the other two buildings from this column that you haven't built at first can be built throughout the game. Just to show you what they look like here, you do not remove any discs from your colonist supply when you do so, and but you do gain the benefit that is listed there. And so we're going to build the garden. So that requires 3 wood, 2 ore, and 1 horse on the red player's side. And so let's go ahead and get rid of 3 wood, 2 ore, and 1 horse. Remove the garden. And the benefit listed here is +1 food when built. So I get to move my food up 1, thus increasing the base amount of workers I get to place onto the board during subsequent rounds. Purple player is just going to forfeit, and so they move their token onto the village box, and will take their purple player icon, place it on the 1 as such to signify that they are done. And the red player moves and has 8 workers left. And so, yeah, they're going to have to work on something. Since they're out of ore, let's just go ahead and move over 1 spot over. This is probably a good move to do anyway, because we get the feeling that the red or the purple player wants to build on top of that location anyway. And so to prevent that from happening for now, we're going to move 1 space over with our overseer. So we use 2 workers to do that. And then you can place up to 4 workers to place there for ore gathering. And to speed things up a little bit, actually before I forfeit with the purple player, they're going to we're going to alternate back and forth, and just to speed things up, take these workers back from their respective locations and gain enough resources to from the spots that they were in, and yeah, so there's that. Just know that they alternated back and forth like they did in the previous round to do so before they forfeited, and the red worker will forfeit with two workers left over after that forfeit action. And now we're going back to the player, or a purple player, and they get first dibs on what they can do with their village workers here. And so I think what they would want to do is they could potentially try to build a high mountain on, if they draw enough tiles on that spot here. And so they're going to do what they did last time and spend 4 workers to take a wild Explorer Guild action and draw 3 tiles again, and they have that there. So we're just going to play it on top of here. It's not going to fit perfectly, just because from the physics of this game right now, of the simulation. but you can imagine that that tile is on top of those three, and we now have a high mount as well as a high field available for building on later. The red player is going to spend 4 workers here, take that harbor action to take their used up overseer here to gain 1 horse before the purple player can do so, like they did in the first round. Purple player is going to take a refine action, or sorry, the Runner's Guild action to move their well down here. I think that moving it here will gain them access to this flatland area to build out the buildings that they wanted to in the previous round, right? And so, yeah, we're just going to do that. The red player, the red player sees that the refinery is open here to take a free ore, and so yeah, they'll play 1 worker down to gain that 1 ore, moving them up to 5. And the purple worker is going to do the same thing and just place 1 worker on and another worker in the village spot, playing 2 workers on top of that refinery to gain 1 ore as well. And then finally, the red player has 5 workers left, so they could probably take a free action. They're just going to do a church action for some extra coin. And so you get 2 coins multiplied by the taxation limit on your board. And so here it's just 1. And so if we take 1 church action and taking some money from some alms from the poor, we gain 2 money basically. And so you can see how this will start to multiply. If you take each church action, you can really gain a lot of coins that way. And the worker, or the purple worker, is done, and so is the red player, and that is another complete round. And so we go back and forth until the end game objective is complete, and that's basically the game. Now, in the prototype rulebook here, and as you noticed on the edges of each player, there are 4 additional buildings, one of each buildings here, where if you play with this variant Beyond the Shores, you can build these special buildings. These are these castle buildings. They have different costs and different benefits. For example, the castle gate can gain you 2 horses when you build it, 5 coins with the treasury. You can remove the technology cube from a non-empty spot with the castle walls. It's free to use that technology piece. And then with the castle tower, you can move up to 6 workers from your reserve to the shipbuilding section, which is right here. If you noticed here, there's a part of this variant as well is the fishing action. When you place a tile, if there are 2 or more oasis hexes, which are technically the blue hexes on the main map here. So if you place 2 or more oasis hexes touching each other, which I don't think we necessarily had. Well, here we did. Like if we were to fit this correctly here, these 2, oasis blue hexes would be touching. And so because of that, we would be able to move some of two discs basically from our reserve to the shipbuilder action. So if I had done that, I would move 2 workers over here from reserve, and during the cleanup phase, when we are, moving our colonists back from the rest box to the supply, we would automatically move these new workers over to the colonist supply to be used later on. This goes along with in the base game with the harbor action. Once you place or build a harbor, you gain 2 of those reserve units immediately. With this variant, it's just a quicker way of moving those reserve workers out from your reserve to eventually the colonist supply in order to get closer to the end game objective of using all of your workers until you have three left, basically, before you finish the game that way. Finally, there are some rules for solo play. There are two versions of the solo game. In the first version, you're playing the game as you normally would, but and you don't necessarily play against another opponent, but you have these task tokens that are drawn from a bag, and you are assigned 10 white discs nearby as well, and you essentially are racing against these uh, resource restraints. You either have to pay these randomly assigned resources during your turn, or you forfeit one of your white discs for every task token that you can't do. If you run out of your 10 white discs, then you lose the game. And there are other ways that I'll leave you to explore here about how you can potentially remove white discs. You can do so for like wild resources, etc. But you're trying to beat the game and finish the game while fulfilling these resource requirements before you use all of the white tokens left over. So in this different solo version of Ibyron, you constructed the village, but now you're building houses. And so you're taking these white discs after seeding the main board with a bunch of the buildings that you started the game with, right? You're building the village at first with these buildings. So you essentially seed the board with those buildings first, and you're playing the game normally, taking advantage of, moving, your overseers to gaining resources and to using those buildings that are already seeded during the village phase. But now, using those resources, you are building these white discs on different tiles. And the amount of white discs that you can place onto a tile, if you want to, put 3 white discs on one tile, you can spend a lot of resources to do so, or just one, depending on the resource chart here. And whoever can run out of white discs to build with first wins. Or I guess you're not playing against anyone else, but if you can do this in a certain amount of time, which is basically before all technology track spaces are filled, when a technology cube is added at the end of the round as the timer. Once again, I'll leave you to explore the details about this version of the solo game, but if you can do that if you can place all of your white discs out before the end, that timing is done, then you win the game. So those are the credits there.